am the chairman of the board, but I'm filling in for John Valines, who is still absent, but he will be back with us next month. We'll just do a quick roll call for the folks in the room. We have Trish Christensen, our CEO. We have Sabrina, and we have Supervisor Terry Withrow, who is our guest speaker today. If we can go down the list, Trish will call on you to just give your name and your organization and title, if you will.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Kelly, could you please introduce yourself?
Good morning. My name is Kelly Talent, and I'm the property manager here at Vintage Fair Mall.
Thank you. Dana?
Good afternoon, Dana Ferreira, regulatory analyst for Modesto Irrigation District. Hello, Supervisor Withrow.
How's it going?
Thank you, Dana. John?
John Mensinger, Director, Division 2, Modesto Irrigation District and American Lumber Company.
Thank you for joining us. Nick?
Nick DeCuslian, Field Representative for Supervisor Manny Graywall.
Thank you. Brianna?
Morning, everyone. Brianna Gonzalez from
Brianna, we really can't hear you.
Oh, shoot.
I
Can you hear me now?
There you go.
Okay. Brianna Gonzalez, representative for Congressman Josh Harder.
Thank you. Dejanay?
Dejanay Shelton, Career Services Director, Modesto Junior College and Chamber Board Member.
Thank you. Back to you, Michael.
Okay,
Kind
of a
screen share when ready.
light crowd this morning, but we will make our way through the agenda. Everyone should have received the board packet from Hope, which included the minutes from the August GRC meeting. If somebody has had a chance to review those, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve them.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Dana. Can I get a second? I think Lisa joined. I think she can vote.
Kelly can vote as well.
Kelly,
I'll second.
thank you, Kelly. All in favor? Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Thank you very much. Motion carried as is. We will make our way down the elected official report outs. Is anyone on the line from Senator Caballero's office who would like to give an update? Anyone from, actually Sabrina's on, from Congressman Harder's office?
It's Brianna. But yes, I can go.
Thank you.
So I'm going to make it a little light today. I just wanted to let you guys know that we helped win a couple of grants for our district. One of them being the AFG grant, or no, I'm sorry, not the AFG grant, the FEMA grant for the SAFER, the Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response grants. So that one's really, really exciting. These are not easy grants to get. Previously, I think our district has only won this grant once before in the past, or maybe twice before in the past 10 years. So this is a big deal. And this is the Modesto Fire Department won this grant. And it's going to fund 5 new full-time firefighter positions. They'll be receiving $4.2 million from FEMA. They're going to be using this grant to add a full-time firefighter to Station 29, which is going to bring that station up to compliance, which it wasn't before. But what I think is really, really exciting about how they're going to use this grant is that it's going to reopen Station 8, which is located in our airport district. And as you all know, that neighborhood is historically underserved. So we're really glad to see that area get some access to federal funding. Also, the next grant that we helped win was a USDA grant, a USDA NIFA grant, which is NIFA is National Institute of Food and Agriculture grant, and this is going to Stan State. They won the Hispanic Serving Institution Education grant, and this is going to allow Stan State to add a food safety concentration to their ag department. So this is really exciting because it goes hand in hand with the tangible and immediate needs of our ag industry. So we're really excited to see how they're going to use that. And lastly, I want to let you guys know that we introduced the Connecting Students to Great Jobs Act. This is a bill which is going to expand Pell Grants to students who are pursuing short-term certificate programs. So as you might know, right now, federal Pell Grants are only awarded to undergraduate students who are attending, four-year universities or have or a 2-year university like MJC, but are going to transfer. This leaves out a whole population of people who don't even go to universities, but would like to get trained in technical positions, which are desperately needed in our district. And some of these certificates include, irrigation design, agricultural operation, heavy machine management, et cetera, et cetera. And again, these are directly associated with high-paying ag jobs. So we just introduced that. Hopefully we can see that, get turned into a bill soon. And that's all for me.
Thank you, Brianna. Any questions? Okay, Lisa, would you like to give us an update from Assemblymember Adam Gray's office?
Let's see here. If I realized how to use a mute correctly, I would do much better. So give me just 1 second here to hit the right buttons. What I'd like to share today is last week we had the end of session, and a copy of this press release that I'm pulling this information from, I just emailed to Felicia at the chamber to be included in the meeting notes for today. But the Medi-Cal coverage of continuous glucose monitors is a really big deal for us. And we've been chasing this for a great deal of time. That finally was approved last week. $60 million for San Joaquin Valley groundwater recharge and storage. As you all know, the Assembly member is a battle cry for water and storage at all times. Getting money designated for this recharge and storage is a huge win for us. The UC Merced Center of Analytic Political Engagement, referred to as CAPE, is a permanent endowment that is being put at the UC Merced. We have continued to work strenuously on agriculture and drought issues, including SB 170, the final bill that amended the state budget, reflecting an agreement between the legislature and the administration on the number of unresolved budget issues, and those will help us in the water and drought conversations. I sent a copy of that press release to Felicia for the notes. In addition to end of session last week, the Assembly member adjourned in memory of Donna Canella, wife of former Assembly member Sal Canella, mother of Anthony, whose funeral is tomorrow. Also affecting our district and certainly the state as a whole, the passing of District Attorney from Merced, Larry Morse. He and the Assembly member have been working very closely for the last several months on several legislative items. His passing this week came as quite a shock to the community. So kind of a really busy week, as well as the Assembly member is hosting Senator Padilla today as he's working his way through the Valley. So kind of a lot of stuff on our playlist for it's like feast or famine sometimes.
Thank you, Lisa. Any questions? And Lisa, you mentioned you're going to be emailing us a handout.
Yes, right before I started, I sent it to Felicia's attention. If you'd like me to send it to someone else, please let me know.
Okay, thank you. We'll include it in the minutes. I appreciate that so much. Any updates from Heath Flora's office? I didn't see anybody from the Assembly member's office. Any city council members who would like to give an update? I didn't see anybody. County supervisors, we're going to get to Supervisor Withrow momentarily. Any city or county staff? I didn't see like Jaylyn or Amy. Okay. Dana, would you like to give a update for MID or Director Mensinger? I know he's in the middle of lunch.
I will defer to the director unless he's in the middle of his lunch.
Well, although I'm in the middle of my lunch, I love to talk. So I shouldn't let this opportunity go by. So I think one thing that's happening right now, and I know Supervisor Withrow is very informed on this issue, is groundwater. The state requires us to file a groundwater management plan, a groundwater sustainability plan by, I think it's January of next year. So MID is working with the cities and the county and the Oakdale Irrigation District to come up with a plan. And so that's going to be very interesting. And I would say so far it looks like it's going well, but we're still waiting to we're still waiting to see the final plan. So anyway, but that's something that I'm spending a lot of time on. So
Thank
that's,
you. Dana, do you have anything to add?
I would just like to add that MID is working with our customers. So if anybody gets any questions or hears anything, we do have payment plans, financial assistance programs, and community resources available to all our customers during this time of COVID. And all the calls that I'm on, the rent assistance program, which obviously we don't have anything to do with, has a bucket full of money and hasn't been used a whole lot. So if people are needing help with their rent, there's money available.
Dana, just out of curiosity, does MID have a shut-off moratorium?
The directors did back at the beginning of COVID instill a shut-off moratorium. Yes.
Thank you. Good to know. There's no further questions. Moving on to AT&T or Comcast or other utilities. I didn't see anybody join. And I haven't seen Stephen Coles join with the League of California Cities. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I have a quick question for Dana, if I could.
Please.
Dana, does that moratorium have an expiration date?
Not that I'm aware of. This is probably a better question for the director, but it is something that will be discussed. I know a lot of utilities, some utilities have started reinstating shutoffs. MID is not one of them, but we're working with our customers to help them with putting payment plans or any assistance that they need.
I would like to address that issue. Certainly everything Dana said is correct. We are not going to be leaders in starting shutoffs in California. We're going to be followers. But I think the time is coming. I think within a few months, we may look at this again, but we'll see how it goes. The problem is that COVID-19 has been a very difficult thing to predict. It's constantly changed course and outsmarted us. So we're being very careful with it. So we'll be very careful before we shut off any of our customers.
And
I
John,
have a
does that
question
go
about
for-
the housing. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I just wanted to clarify. Is that for residential and commercial?
Correct.
Got it.
Yeah, and by the way, we don't have much of a problem with commercial. And the nice thing is the great majority of residential arrearages, those folks will qualify for help from the state program. So we think we're in pretty good shape.
And to follow up with the comment by Director Minsinger, MID has submitted the information to qualify for the CAP funding through the state. And there was a large bucket of money for the investment owned utilities and a substantial bucket for the publicly owned utilities. So we have submitted all the information requested by the state, and we will wait to see how much of that we are allotted. But that money will be, the first in line is residential arrearages, followed by commercial.
Thank you. Can I pause a moment and ask who just joined us by phone?
Donna Linder, I don't have audio on my computer.
Yeah, Dejanay, you had a question?
I had a question about the housing funding that was brought up. Where is this funding available? How is this being distributed to community members?
You can apply through the county, I believe. Supervisor Withrow or someone from the county may be able to answer, but I believe how I understand it is there's an application either on the county or the city website that you can apply through. If not, they at least have the information.
I'll talk about that in just a second.
Oh, perfect. Excellent. Thank you. Donna, do you have a comment? Maybe on mute.
No,
On housing, I do not.
in general.
In general, we're working on the election right now. We received over 40,000 ballots on election day, so we have a real strict signature verification process that we're still doing to be able to process those ballots and get our final results out.
Oh, excellent. Any questions for Donna? I'll put that in the county report. Okay, so we've made our way through our report outs, which brings us to our guest speaker, who is Stanislaus County Supervisor Terry Withrow. He represents District 3, and I pulled up the map and tried to understand the district that you represent. And I think it's everything basically is essentially West Modesto, south of Ladd Road, west of Tully Road, and north of Whitmore Avenue, clear out to the county line. That sounds right. Excellent. And Supervisor Withrow is here in person to share with us the current state of the county. So with that, the floor is all yours.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks for having me here today, everybody, you guys here, and everybody who's on virtual here. My name again is Terry Withrow. I'm an accountant. I'm a CPA. That's what I do for a living. I have an office about here over on 15th Street. Been there in that spot for about 25 years now. And we just have a firm there. It's made up of, we do all kinds of stuff for family businesses and tax and financial. And one of our 4 children is actually a CPA that's joined the firm now too. So that's great. So that's my real job. That's what I do for a living. I'm also we're involved in a little bit of farming out on the west side, a little bit of grapes and almonds that we're involved in. And I'm on the board of directors of Oak Valley Community Bank here locally. So
Wow. Can I interrupt just for a moment?
Yep.
I'm gonna ask, sounds a little and towards us just a little bit, please. We'll put you a little bit closer to the mic and see if that reaches them a little better.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Okay, perfect. So that's kind of what I do, who I am. What I've been on the board of supervisors for 11 years now, finishing up my 11th year, finish up my 3rd term. And so I represent District 3, which pretty much runs from river to river, kind of just like Tully Road, everything west. It's kind of a good way to think about it, from the 12 to the stands. So that's who I am. I've been married for 36 years. We have 4 kids. 2 of them live here and 2 of them live in North Carolina right now. So yeah, so we have a son who serves our country, and he's in North Carolina right now, but heading back to the Middle East unfortunately soon. And my daughter was a CPA, daughter who's a teacher. Those are the 2 that live here, and then a daughter who's a reporter in North Carolina for a TV station in Charlotte.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so she's our youngest. So that's likely they all take after their mom. That's the good. That's where the good stuff comes from. So as far as the county is concerned, talk a little bit about the county. County's probably fiscally stronger than we've ever been in the history of the county. We have over $250 million in reserve. We are debt free. I don't think there's many counties in the state of California that can say they're debt free. We're blessed. We have a great board right now. We've been blessed with previous good boards, supervisors, and very fiscally conservative individuals who have done a great job in running the county. And so, we can't take all the credit. Our current board, though we do have a good board, but we have just a history of very professional, well-run organization. And then, of course, our staff is just unbelievable. We have a real longevity within the staff, which helps with that kind of institutional knowledge that stays around. We work very hard to make sure that we have succession plans for our department heads. Everybody's kind of working with the idea that someday they'll be gone and might need somebody else to take this over. And so it just helps when you have that continuity and that knowledge. It helps the turnover that we see a lot of times, unfortunately, within city councils and cities. It is unfortunate because that's how you end up with people just that don't have that knowledge of the institution. So anyway, so blessed very much in the county of what we're doing. When I say we're debt free, we really the only debt we really have is our unfunded pension, which every agency seems to have, unfunded liability. But I would say we're probably stronger than, very much stronger than most. We're about 80% funded as of our last update here. That can change with with the stock market as it comes and goes, as far as the values of the assets of the plants. But as of right now, we are very fiscally strong in our pension too, as far as funding it. Unfortunately, government agencies have defined benefit pension plans. There's two types of plans: defined benefit pension or profit sharing plan. Profit sharing plan, which all of us in business have. Most businesses, I think almost all businesses got rid of the defined benefit pension plans 30 years ago because it was bankrupting the companies. So now they're just bankrupting the cities and the counties that have them. And so what they do is they guarantee a certain amount of retirement when you retire. It's not how much money is in there and okay, we'll be able to pay that out to you based on what's in there. It's you're guaranteed a certain return of percentage of your salary with a defined benefit plan, which makes it very difficult to be able to get enough money in there to be able to fund that over the course of someone's life and retirement. So that's where we are as far as the retirement. But again, we are probably better than most agencies in this state, I would say right now, as far as how we are funded. We do our since I'm an accountant, I love the accounting side of it, and we do a great job as far as that's concerned. We do 2-year cycles. Our budgets are over 2 years. We constantly look at them every quarter. We update them, try to see how are we as far as coming in with our actual numbers versus what we budgeted for. Do we need to make adjustments? We do those quarterlies. We do 5-year. Our models have 5-year budget out there that we plan out for 5 years to try to see where we're going to go. We pull numbers from what we think our revenue is going to be, sales tax revenue, depending on where the economy is going. We have consultants that help us with that. So just very well done. Like what any business you want to do to try to figure out how you're going to plan for the future. We look out 5 years and we plan for a 5-year cycle, really. And it helps us greatly as far as budgeting and also it helps encourage us as we do that to put money away like we all do. You know, things are great right now. The revenues are unbelievable, even through this COVID for this county. But we put that money away. We don't just go out and spend like drunken sailors. Think we got all this money, it's burning a hole in our pocket. We have to put that away because you know the downturn's coming. And thank God for our predecessors in the 2008 downturn when that happened. They had done the same thing that we were able to weather that storm. And that's put money away for those things. And so I'm very proud of the way the county works. So just to talk about a couple things, most recently that are going on, you know, the federal government's been printing money, handing it out across the country like crazy, and we've got our share of it. A lot of it has to be tied to COVID. Most of it does have to be tied to COVID and how it's spent. There's always strings attached. Most of our funding that comes into the county that our property tax revenue that we get, we are able to keep about 13 cents of every dollar you pay in property taxes. The rest of the majority goes to our school system, goes to the cities to some extent, but mainly to the school system. So just think about that when you think you're paying those property taxes. We only get 13 cents of it to use. The rest of our funds come from, there's some sales tax to the extent we have operations that are retail that collect sales tax out in the unincorporated areas. All the cities get to keep their own sales tax revenues. The rest of our money comes from the federal and state government. We're kind of a pass-through entity, an arm of the federal and state government. They give money to us and tell us exactly how to spend it. Unfortunately, sometimes not only do they tell us how to spend their money, they'll then make us match some of that with this discretionary revenue, this property tax 13 cents that we have. We have to match for some of that. So we call this, sometimes there's unfunded mandates, but they'll tell us to do things that the state won't actually fund, but we have to kick in the money for it. So that's kind of fiscally how the county and how the dollars work. Things that we're working on recently are the most recent funds. We got the ARPA funds. ARPA stands for American Rescue Plan Act, I think that's what it was. Most recently, we got about 107 million came to the county for us to spend that money, and we have tentatively set up kind of a general roadmap as to how we want to spend that. We have set aside about $5 million towards supporting families, which is really towards just helping organizations within the community to help the family unit, which ultimately we work so hard on what we call focus on prevention, trying to get to the root cause of our problems in the county. The way you're going to get to the root cause is get to kids and get to families and catch them before they get into our system. And so, we're going to put about $5 million towards that. We're going to put about $50 million towards infrastructure. And there are what we call county pockets throughout the county. Cities, we have 9 cities here in our county. Within those 9 cities, there's pockets all over the place, areas where the cities have incorporated around and not incorporated maybe these pocket areas. those areas a lot of times have no curbs, gutter, sidewalks, or do they have sewer or water? They're on their own septic systems, they're on their own wells a lot of times. So we have been for years looking at all those pockets and trying to determine how we can solve that problem. We really need for the cities for which they're in to just incorporate those areas. The cities won't incorporate them until they are brought up to code, which means they have to have curb, gutters, sidewalks, sewer, and water. So the first step towards that is to get really sewer and water into those neighborhoods, into those streets where those pockets exist. We've had a kind of a robust program working on that. We get funds, block grant funding that we help to help do that. And we're going through kind of case by case, and prioritizing is a hard part. Which one do we work at? But we are continuing trying to bring sewer lines into these areas. The trick then is trying to get individual houses, units to hook up to those sewer lines. We're trying to find funding to help. It's about $8,000 to hook in. So most people, geez, they're not going to be able to do that. But we're finding funding for that now too. And but it's still a hurdle we need to get over. Is now all of a sudden they're going to hook into the city sewer, but now they have a monthly bill, right, coming. Whereas in the past they just had it going to their septic tank and they just had to clean that out every now and then. But most of the septic systems are so old, they're failing, it's unsafe. And so anyway, we're working very hard to get that going with the sewer. Water, the same thing, but we try to coordinate with the cities to get that done. And we are making progress with that. Curb, gutter, and sidewalks, that's the next part of it. Again, all these things that we have to do to get the city to incorporate, bring them into their city. And so this $50 million that we're putting aside sounds like a lot of money, but we think it's probably $600 million actually to get to all of these county pockets. So it's kind of a drop in the bucket, but we're hoping we can use this money and kind of leverage it and get other funding. But we're working very hard on it, and it's probably one of our main focuses. A lot of times we hear from people that you're not doing enough in these neighborhoods and spending money there, and they're spending them on the other neighborhoods. Well, the reason the other neighborhoods have curbs, gutters, and sidewalks and sewer and water is because it was built into the cost of that house when it was purchased. The developer puts all that infrastructure in, pays for it, and builds it into the price of the house. These are houses that were built in areas long ago, and the house was just went in and was built there without that. And so the house was substantially cheaper because of that. But now here we are trying to get these up to these standards. So nobody's fault, but that's just the way it is, and that's what we're up against. And so it's not an intentional, oh, they get all the good stuff over here, why don't we get it over here? That's not the mentality. I would say probably 75% of the county's budget, we have about a $1.6 billion budget this year. About 75% of that money is spent in and towards our disadvantaged communities, trying to make a difference in those areas, whether it's, if it's not infrastructure, it's programs that we're doing. So that's where we spend most of our money. That's why it's so important in that focus on the prevention to be able to get to the root causes before they get into our system. So that's for what that's worth. $5 million of this $107 million we're going to put towards we call it Community Development Corporation, which is really to try to help businesses also in our disadvantaged communities. One thing we found that was so evident as we went through this COVID, additional funding, the county had another $108 million that we received early on, and CARES money, and we put together these grant programs for businesses, because all the businesses, because of no fault of their own, government shut them down. So you can't have people, customers, you can't have people in. So we decided we need to get these dollars that the federal government's giving out to these businesses. And so we came up with these programs that people had to apply for. And if they qualified for it, we get the funds to them. And unfortunately, so many of these businesses in the disadvantaged communities did not qualify, didn't even apply for these funds, just because they didn't have the kind of the financial literacy to do it. They don't have an account. They don't have a CPA to prepare these financials to turn in for them. They don't have a bank that they work with. A lot of the PPP money that was out there, Paycheck Protection Program money, which I had, we all had so many businesses that received that. So many of our clients applied for it and received it, but we helped them through that process, and their banks helped them through that process. I know at Oak Valley Bank, we did a ton of those process, those loans, those grants. And so, but unfortunately, these disadvantaged communities, they just don't have that literacy. They're so busy just in their business that they don't have time to work on their business. And so that's what this $5 million towards a Community Development Corporation, which is kind of going through city ministries, kind of spearheading that with funding through city ministries. And it's really to bring up that financial literacy of this community. There are so many great businesses out there that have so much potential, but they don't have capital. They don't have access to the capital. They don't have those banking relationships. And if they do go to the bank, nobody will touch them. And so we're working on trying to change that. We're trying to get them out into these areas. And that's where part of this money is $5 million that we're throwing towards that. Let's just say in a second, there's other stuff we're doing. Then another $30 million we're throwing towards what we call our economic development kind of job creation package that we're putting together. We're calling the Stanislaus 2030 is what we're doing. I'm a true believer that government doesn't create jobs, but government is a great facilitator, and they're great to make sure there's an even playing field out there, and we bring people together. And so this isn't necessarily a government jobs program that we're doing, but we're doing this in coordination with Stanislaus Community Foundation. We are bringing in, the foundation is bringing in a consultant. The county has agreed to put about $450,000 towards that. There's a lot of private sector money that's coming towards that. And it's really about to come up with an economic strategy for a community-wide vision for our future. And what we're looking at is, when we talk about jobs, we're always trying to attract businesses here. We're always trying to bring somebody here to the county that will provide jobs. But we have to have a workforce. We need to know what kind of jobs, what businesses would come here, what businesses would potentially come here. And then we need to make sure we have a trained workforce for those people to come here. And so the thought is we're going to bring everybody together. This isn't the first time it's been done. They did this down in Fresno, but we will bring all the partners together and work towards, what's a strategy, what's our vision, what is businesses are they looking to come here, and what kind of jobs do we need to have, and how do we coordinate all our efforts to make sure that we have a trained workforce. And it involves the private sector. It involves our education system, right? Our community college, our local college, Tennessee State, all of them to be a part of it, to make sure that we are graduating, we are putting people through programs for which there are jobs and there's a demand for. And so it's kind of the way we should look at it. In the past, we've always, let's get some businesses in here. And no, let's get the workforce trained so the businesses will want to come here. Because that's what we hear so much, that you don't have a trained workforce, you don't have people. So we're working very hard to get that started. We have a group of people that will be on an executive committee that are again made up of private sector, nonprofit organizations, just bringing everybody, education, everybody involved. And then from there, we will expand that out. And until where we go, we're on a very short time frame. We're looking to do this in like 6 to 9 months to come up with a strategy that we can start to do something about it. So not just another long-term program to put on the shelf somewhere. So we're happy about that. So that's where about $30 million still leaves about 10 million over 107 that we're kind of holding there to see what we're going to do. So the other thing we're doing, I think there's an article in the paper today about it, is it's funny to record is housing. We're looking to do what we can do with housing. And we started working probably 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago, probably 5 years ago, through our focus on prevention, dealing with homelessness and what to do about our homeless problem here in this county, which is not just a county-wide problem, it's a state problem. In my opinion, it is created out of Sacramento. This is just my commentary. This is as a result of legislation coming out of Sacramento that pretty much decriminalized everything in the state. And you can't really go to jail for anything. It's something to put anybody in the jail. And not that we're looking to put people in jail, but we used to be able to take people who had serious drug and alcohol problems who were on the street. We used to be able to arrest them. We can't do that anymore. Somebody shooting up heroin ends up with a ticket, and we request that they appear in court. And so, but back in the day, we were able to arrest people, get them into our jails, and then offer them programs. And say, we'll let you out, we can get you out quicker if you get into a drug rehab program, if you get into an alcohol rehab program. And so it was all a coordinated effort. And we had a club, not that you want to have a club, but sometimes you need a club to help encourage people to, especially people with serious drug alcohol problems. And so we lost that ability. And from that, plus we had the emptying out of our jails, people being sent back to our counties. And so we ended up with a ton of people on the street. I would say probably 90% of the people that are on the street have serious drug, alcohol, or mental health issues. There are the few who are down and out on their luck and ended up out on the streets. But if you think about it, most of those people, anybody that we knew that was just down and out on their luck, they would get help from friends and family, right? I mean, they wouldn't be on the streets, you'd be working. But if you were helping those people out and they were on drugs, they were stealing from you, that's how they end up on the street because of their addiction problems. And that's just the reality of it. And I don't care what anybody says, you go out on the street, you see what's going on. We can give all the money in the world we want to people. We can build all the houses in the world we want for people that have serious drug and alcohol problems. They're not going to stay in them until we get them over their addictions and have them deal with their issues. And so that's what we started with, the focus on prevention, was to try to get to the root cause of these people's problems and to start helping them with services, giving them the services. So now, as we're successful with that, we get people back on their feet, we get them going in. We still have a shortage of houses. There's no question across the state we have a housing problem. And so as we bring more people back that are looking for houses, we've got to figure out a way to deal with this. So we have, and there's mandates from the state that require us to do certain things that they call them, we received our RHNA numbers, Regional Housing Needs Assessment numbers, and that's where they tell your county how many houses you need to build within the next, I think it's the next 10 years. You need to have in place in the next 10 years. And our number recently that we had was 34,500, I think. And we just think about that. How's that going to happen? How are we going to get that done? And it has to happen organically. Government can't make that stuff happen. It's got to be profitable for business to build on. We've got ways to do it. But we are putting together this housing initiative now, housing status housing initiative, that we call it, where we're trying to figure out a way to accelerate affordable and market rate housing in our county. And we've contracted with a company called Valley Vision, the county has, to help us coordinate this effort, try to figure out how we move forward. And so what we look at, we put together what we call a housing continuum. And it starts off with let's kind of look at how we have it. It starts off with, we talked about the homeless, we talked about emergency shelters. That's just a temporary emergency shelter, whatever, a day to 6 months to get somebody off the streets to try to help them get them into services. From there, we move them into transitional housing, which as they get through their addictions and their problems, we can get them in some sort of transitional housing, anywhere from a year to 24 months. And then we look for permanent supportive housing for people who can't live on their own, are going to have to be in some sort of supportive community. So we look for that. And then we just look for affordable housing as the next phase, to get more affordable housing for people, rental housing, and then just home ownership. So that's what we're looking to do with this this housing initiative that we have that we're working on. And so we hope within the next few months as we move forward with this, that we're going to put together a coordinated effort, not just the county, but with all the cities. Everybody, constant battles we have is with regard to annexations and where to build the houses, and each city's on their own agenda. They're doing their own thing. It needs to be a coordinated effort. We need to all be working together. The county is working to try to tax sharing arrangements is another thing as far as revenue, tax sharing deals that we're trying to work with all the cities to on tax sharing revenue. And so we're working on that too. So this whole housing initiative is going to bring in all the cities and everybody involved, the private sector, again, everybody, to look at where is the best place for growth, where can we make it happen, where can we get it happen quickest, and what kind of houses are we talking about in that continuum that we talked about there. So instead of every city doing their own thing, the county doing their own thing, the county for the most part is limited on housing. It takes a vote of the people before we can build houses anywhere in the unincorporated areas. But the cities don't have that to deal with, but there are certain other issues that the city has to deal with. So we just want to coordinate an effort. Let's all sit down in a room together and figure this out, where the houses should go and what areas can build them. And it shouldn't be a competition between cities, because that's what we find so many times. When I first got elected, I couldn't believe how government agencies compete with each other. Whether it's TID with MID, John can hear that out there, or the county with all the cities. There's like this competition for revenue. And no, we're here to serve the people of this county in total. It's not just the people of Modesto or the people of Ceres or Turlock. And so we've tried to change that narrative that let's all work together on these things and figure out how to solve the problems. Because the taxpayer could care less. They want you just to solve these problems. They don't care about your little turf wars you're having amongst yourself. And so anyway, so that's we have a lot of hope with regard to this housing initiative that we're kind of present the paper today. We talked about it. I think there was a presentation at Modesto City Council just to let the city know what the county was working on. And we're gonna go out to each one of the cities and do that. And they're gonna all be a part of it, like I said. So that's kind of the most current stuff that's going on with the county right now. Infrastructure, things that we worked on that we're doing well with. And that's part of bringing businesses here too, is make sure we've got infrastructure in place so that it's attractive for business to be able to get the goods and services in and out of here. And we have done the North County corridor. Great things have happened up there. Started on Kernan we had no money, and my predecessor, Jeff Grover, helped get that going. And it's kind of started with, like, if you build it, the money will come. So we started, and we have been able to find funding for that. We're going to have access from Highway 99. Eventually, when it's all done, a freeway from 99 all the way to the east side of Oakdale, which is going to be a great thing. We're looking forward to that happening. And it already is great. The widening of Kernan, just the traffic patterns there will be so much better. 132, which has been the bane of my existence, almost got me unelected twice as I pushed that thing forward. It's going to be the first phase of that will be done by the end of this year. So it's going from 99 to, it's been on the books for 60 years. The land, pretty much all the land from 99 to Gates was bought 60 years ago. It got shut down by Jerry Brown in his first term, first round as governor. He stopped it, trying to get everybody out of cars and into, I don't know what. But, and so when they stopped a lot of freeway projects, that was one of them he stopped. And so we got it going again. It's going to be a great thing. It's going to save lives. It's going to get some services in and out of here safely again. And so we're going to be as far as Dakota at the end of this year. It'll be kind of a mess because we'll be turning, going back on to 132. But we've already started the environmental work, planning, we've approved the route all the way to Gates. We've approved the alternative. We have 4 alternative big fund. The county's kind of recommended what we think it should be. Caltrans has the ultimate say. It's a Caltrans project. It's Caltrans owned land. But us to handle the first phase of it, we're taking it over through StanCog, our Stanislaus Council Organization of Governments. The next phase out to and additional phases, because right now on phase 1, it's really just 2 lanes, one separated 2 lanes going east and west. That's going to be expanded to 4 lanes, and that'll be the second phase. Phase 3 is out to Gates, and so but we don't want to start phase 2 without it going out to Gates, because we don't want to have 4 lanes making that turn there at Dakota. So it's going to be kind of a mess there, but we're finding funding already. We're making, it's all about money, trying to figure out how to pay for it. Congressman Harder has helped us with that. I think we are. Thank you for that. We've been getting additional funding from him, and we're anticipating much more from him with this infrastructure bill. So
She's still on.
good. So we know that Josh is helping us, and we really appreciate that. And so Josh is a great guy doing good stuff for us. And so so anyway, that's what's going on infrastructure-wise. We hope eventually to do the South County corridor, which is down there along West Main, going from Turlock all the way from Turlock to I-5. And so
Brianna says, thank you, Supervisor.
yes, yeah, and that will eventually happen too. And that's just how we make this a better community. Like I said, we make it attractive for businesses. We make it safer for our we've got people to commute. Ultimately, we'd love someday where people won't commute anymore. But we had all those jobs here, and that all goes back to the family again, and people being away from their families, and the kids being home alone, and it's a vicious cycle. And so anyway, that's where the infrastructure kind of helps bring businesses here, and we eventually end up with a better community. So so good things in the county. I just can't say enough of how well the county is being run. I love my fellow supervisors. We've had recently 3 new supervisors join us. And Manny Rewald, Chance Condit, and we are, I just say we're a well-oiled machine. We all work very well together. It's all about getting things done, whether it's in the county, the city, the state, or the federal government. It's all about relationships. Unfortunately, we don't see that going on anymore. It's so divisive right now in politics. It's so divisive. And you're either with me or against me. There's no in-between ground. It used to be in the old days that there was the left and the right, and they would meet in the middle and figure things out. And but that just doesn't seem to happen anymore. And, but I can tell you, at the county, it does. When our board of supervisors, it's not about partisan politics. We're nonpartisan. When we run for re-election, you won't see a D or an R by our name, and it's very nonpartisan. We disagree on a lot of stuff amongst ourselves, but we do it amongst ourselves. The key to success, we always say that change comes at the speed of trust. And so you get to trust people you work with. And you do that by building relationships with them, getting to know them. You love the people you work with. You can disagree with them just like your husband or wife. You can have disagreements, but you still get things done. And you still have business and people to take care of. And that's how the county works. I'm just thrilled to have been a part of it up to this point with my fellow supervisors and our staff. We have such good people. And that's why the county looks and runs so well. We just can't have the bitter fighting that goes on in these standoffs, whereas because of them, because the electeds can't get things done, then the people suffer. And so that's what's happening at the federal level, and it happens at the state level, and unfortunately it happens in a lot of our cities here in the county too. So we encourage people to try to build relationships amongst their fellow electeds. And from that, all kinds of great things can happen. So anyway, that's it for an update on the county. Anything I can answer?
We're definitely a small enough group. I invite you to just unmute and feel free to offer your questions or comments.
Not to put you on the spot, would you like to address water or just wait and see if there's a question?
Yeah, well, we've been working on water for years. We've had this we've been up against it. The county was really a leader. We're blessed in this county. We have great environment, our weather patterns are great here, our soil is great, and we have water. We're blessed with water. We have rivers that help supply, recharge our groundwater. And great stuff going on as far as farming is concerned. And so it's a perfect place to farm. No place in the world probably like the land that we have here, the climate. That's where the climate that we have here, and the water and the soils. That being said, we're under attack. We have because we have this water, we have environmentalists that are working very hard to get more of the water out of the river, supposedly for the fish down the river. And so we started years ago trying to bring everyone together, again, it's all about building relationships, working with people, trying to work out a deal. And we had a couple of meetings actually at my office, my day job, where we brought people in. My wife made dinner for them, and we brought all these diverse groups, and our irrigation districts were involved, TID, MID, OID. We had people from the environmental groups that were very much pushing for this one direction. We had legislators like Kristen Olson, Adam Gray was there at the time, and all working towards trying to see let's come to some sort of, we went up to Sacramento a couple of times and met up there with Fish and Wildlife. And so negotiated settlement is what we were looking for, trying to figure out a way that works for everybody. Enough water for the fish, enough water for our communities. So we're not just talking about farmers, we're talking about drinking water for people in this valley, especially the disadvantaged communities. That as we take water away, that water that we're using through the recycle plant that Modesto has, or the water treatment plant, I'm sorry, that Modesto has, and also Turlock Series are working on one too. We take river water and turn it into drinking water. And so, which helps keep us from depleting our groundwater. And so the more and more we take that away, the more these communities have to rely on groundwater, which groundwater is high in all kinds of things that aren't healthy, and as we deplete it. So so it's not just farmers we're talking about saving, we're talking about our community drinking water. So negotiated settlement, we were working towards that, and it seems to be held up. And again, it just comes back to there's no middle ground. We're not coming to the middle ground. We feel as a community that we have worked very hard to get to the middle ground. Our MID, John can verify this, TID, OID have all worked very hard to do everything we can for the environment to try to make this work so we can get to that middle spot that we all can live. Enough water for the fish and the environment, and still enough water for us. So we keep working towards that middle. Now it seems like they just won't accept it. It seems to be, it's very frustrating, the process. And I haven't been involved in it most recently, but it's been a very frustrating process, and the stuff coming out of the State Water Resource Control Board, it's just been asinine. It's just not right. And it's not fair for this community. So, and again, it's not about farmers. I mean, farmers are a portion of it, but it's about disadvantaged communities and our community not being able to have sustainable water. The Sustainable Groundwater Management Act that was passed by the state, a few groundwater sustainability agencies made up of groups in the different basins. There's 4 basins in our area, and then each one of them had to come up with a groundwater sustainability plan, which you do, like John says, coming up here pretty quick. And those plans deal with equal, putting water in as much as you're taking out. And we put water in through using river water, to recharge our aquifers. And so we're going to have to fall within these plans that we're putting in place that the state will approve. So there's all kinds of efforts to make this work, and it involves a lot of control of the pumping. It's going to happen here in the county. And so it does happen in the county, but now that's going to be controlled more. So it's very complicated. There's a lot of moving parts, but we feel we are doing everything we can to try to find that spot in the middle that we all can live. And it hasn't been coming back the other way at all. Very unfair the way it's going right now. That was a long answer.
No, it's really good. I will just add that the chamber is also mindful of how contentious these discussions can be and how important it is. And we recently, within the last year, I would say, resurrected our water committee. So that's back up and running, just so we can stay informed and offer support if and when needed.
I appreciate it.
Yes.
We just
So this is a subject that I know something about. And basically the problem is that the MID and the TID and the city and county of San Francisco on the Tuolumne agreed to a deal in principle with the Brown administration. And long story short, the Newsom administration, when it took over, did not honor the agreement. So they're trying to renegotiate the agreement. And we're negotiating in good faith, and there still could be a voluntary agreement. But I must say, it's right now we're not making progress. In the good news department, it appears that the state may have done what is called waiving their water quality certification rights vis-a-vis our relicensing of the dam on the Tuolumne. And that's the legal question. It's going to the Court of Appeals now. But if we win that case, sort of one of the big sticks that the state has to beat us with on water goes away. So that's something we'll know more about in roughly about 6 months. And oddly enough, the other funny thing about the Tuolumne River is 2.6 million people in the Bay Area rely on the Tuolumne River for drinking water. And the irony is that their water rights are junior to those of the Turlock and Modesto irrigation districts. So oddly enough, when the state is coming after our water, they're also threatening the drinking water supply of the San Francisco Bay Area. So I think that as a practical matter, I think that somewhat limits the ability of the state to take outrageous amounts of our water. But they are trying, and all I can say is we're fighting. We unfortunately, you have to be a legal expert to understand all this stuff, and I'm not a legal expert, but I've been getting educated on it for the last 7+ years. And I think our prospects are pretty good. I think our legal position is strong. Our water rights are senior. So you never know what's going to happen, but I'm optimistic that it's going to work out well.
So we hope so. And as far as going to court, I don't think anybody seems to ever win. That's why we're trying to negotiate this thing ahead of time. Recently, the county just lost 2 cases. It's called the Powers case and it's called Constant case. Anyway, 2 individuals sued the county over anybody can put a well in the county. We issue a permit. It's called an ministerial permit, which is kind of automatic to make sure it's far enough away from maybe septic or whatever, but you can put a well in. Recently, we lost in the Supreme Court of California, where they said that these permits are discretionary because we do have some. Anyway, we think it was totally wrong, but now it looks like, for the most part, anybody who wants to put a well permit in now, or wants to put a well in to come get a permit from it, it will be discretionary, and they'll probably have to go through a sequel process. Get this means an environmental impact report potentially for somebody just to put a well in out on their property. And so that's devastating to not only us, it's devastating to the state. Everybody's watching to see how this was going to happen. We won all the way through to the Supreme Court, and then we lost it to the Supreme Court. And so we think it was totally wrong the way they interpreted it. So we're up against that right now. We have a lot of permits that were in the queue that now all of a sudden we're telling them potentially you might have to go through this expensive process to try to get a well permit from us. And so there are exemptions for like domestic wells or replacement wells if you just replace an existing well. But still, it's unbelievable the regulation, what is being imposed on us now. And so we're trying to scramble, trying to figure that out. Everybody in the state scrambling, trying to figure out what we're going to do and how this affects us. So very discouraging. So anything that goes to the courts, especially in California, I don't have a whole lot of hope. gotta solve our problem before we get there. So. Thank you, John.
Expensive, but also it could take a lot of time, right? Couldn't that delay projects by a year or more,
Yeah.
an EIR?
It could. I mean, so we're looking at this drought right now. So we tried to do the math the other day when we at the county, we were trying to figure out how we're going to deal with this. And so we've got a process we're going to try to put in place that now people are going to have to go through to get these permits. And like I said, there's about 38 of them that are sitting there right now that have been waiting to get approved. So we think it's 4 to 6 months for us to have the process in place for them to apply for. Then somebody, when you're going through an EIR, there's a public comment period, right? There's a period where somebody can look. And so all they need to do is send something in there, throw a wrench in the gears, and now the whole thing gets held up. So say this drought right now, everybody's done pretty much their harvesting right now. We're through this, you know. And so say it doesn't rain, say it continues not to rain. So then we go into the next irrigation year. And so we've got enough water, you know, probably to get us probably through May. This is what we thought, this is what Vito thought, our resident, our main farmer on the board. And we thought if it didn't rain anymore, if the drought continues, we maybe got enough water to get it through May. What do we do come May? You know, these wells, that's when people have to turn their wells on at that point because we don't have the surface water coming through the canals anymore. And so we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars of assets that are at risk here now. So it's unbelievable that we're in this spot. And we've been working on it for this long. We got through the last drought. It rained, you know, we made it through the last one. And we weren't able to solve this before the next drought came. Here we are, the next drought, still fighting over the exact same thing. So, that's water.
Not to change the subject, I'm just curious. I haven't been paying too much attention to 132 and I try to avoid it at all costs because of the construction. But what advantages are there to phase one and even maybe phase two? And are there phases beyond gates or will there always be a bottleneck going over the river?
Yeah, so the day will come someday, probably, I don't know, in our lifetime, but to connect to San Joaquin over on that side. You've seen what they've done over on the San Joaquin side. It's 4-lane and divided great. That's going to be the ultimate goal. And the thing is going to be all the way from 5 to 99, 4-lane divided highway with no stops. And so there is, right now it's everything we got just to get us to gates. And then the next phase will be at some point. For money, it's all about funding. But once you get that going so well, and that it seems to always be the money starts to come when there's these projects that are already up and running and they just need a little more funding to finish them. It's easy to get that money from Caltrans, from the state, especially from the federal government. It looks a lot better as compared, oh, we've got a concept here, we want to do this, and we make money for planning, and then we're gonna, if they see something that they can throw to and show a completed project that's, you know, it's almost done, we can just complete. It's a lot easier to get the funding. So I think that part of it will come, just like we think from Dakota to Gates, the funding is going to come. I mean, we're there. We just give us some more money and we finish it off. And so, yeah, that is the plan. Ultimately, there is weird stuff going on. Again, back to California, where there's legislation and conversations about less funding for highways because they want people out of cars and they want less use of highways. And so that's scary. You know, because I mean, good luck with that. They've been telling us that for years. You know, we've got good stuff in the ACE train we're working on and things like that's happening. But you're not going to get people out of cars here in California. You can get them more efficient, you can get them electric, whatever you want to do. You're going to need roads still. And so, anyway, so as we start to see legislation and things coming out to start to limit our funding for projects, you know, even existing projects, now all of a sudden they're in jeopardy because they're saying that. That's just crazy. We've got to finish these things off. We've got to continue to have roads. Within our county, we've got great, you know, stuff with roads. The Measure L that we passed a few years ago, that's just been going gangbusters. And we've been able to do so many repairs and local roads that we do with that. So.
Are there any other questions or comments for Supervisor Withrow? Any folks on the line? Chat's clear. It looks like it went 3 to 4. But.
No, we've cleared those. On my end, I'm sure those.
Anything else?
Quiet group.
Seeing none and hearing none. I really appreciate your time, Supervisor. Thank you for coming in and sharing your story and the current state of the county with us. It's all very exciting news. Glad to see a tremendous amount of progress made in a lot of different areas. So keep up the great work. Yeah.
Good stuff. Thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you for your
Thank you
time.
for having me.
Are there any announcements that anybody would like to make before we adjourn? We're at 12:35 here, which is pretty much on track to where we normally end.
I'll just plant a seed that a week from Monday is our first council connection webinar. It's free to attend, open to anybody. We have decided to go full webinar platform for this. You can get information on our website or social media or our e-blast. You need a link, you need to register, and then you'll get the Zoom access from there. But we'd love to have a lot of people come out and get to know our council members and mayor a bit.
Excellent. Anything else? So John, again, will be back in the saddle again next month. It appears as though the speaker is to be determined. So we will work diligently to identify and book a speaker for next month's GRC meeting. We may have had a cancellation, but John Vines will be back, and I hope that we have somebody good.
I think we're trying to do the focus on water.
Okay,
But we did have a cancellation. So
Okay.
we're regrouping right now.
excellent. So the next meeting will take place on Friday, October 15th. Until then, please be safe and be well, and we will adjourn at 12:35. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.